Houston, we have a problem. This is Isaac Perlman of the Ulitic 216. We are currently being chased by pirates. All crew have been strapped in place. We're sending you our current coordinates to our destination coordinates. We're initiating a wormhole jump from K Cluster to Milky Way. We'll see you on the other side.
Our sensors are detecting a distress beacon, localized at marker 3XB74A.
Computer, prep the teleporter. We're going down.
In In's Reach, you'll investigate the mysterious fate of the Ulitic 216. Navigate detailed ship logs and explore the many lands of this unknown planet. From the hot deserts to the volcanic pits, from the icy plains to the wastelands. You'll run, jump, stab, dodge, slam, cut, and burn your way through the alien-infested lands. Unlock magic spells and new weapons, solve immersive puzzles and locate collectibles, all in the hopes of unraveling the history and ruins of this long-forgotten grave. And for those of the Ulitic 216, may whatever deity they worship have mercy on their souls.
Houston, if you can read this, if anyone can read this, Ulitic 216 is out of commission. We don't know where we are.
Three, two, one. What is up, everybody? Kazdan is on here with Kraz Productions. I know it's been a minute, but we are back at it again with another Atari dev space. And today we are joined by Curious Entertainment and Uncle Flip from Obsidian Tell me, say the name. Obsidian Contraption?
Obsidian Contraption.
There we go. Okay. Why don't you guys introduce yourself real quick before we get into this? We're going to be talking about all kinds of video game stuff today, so stay tuned. Starting with you, Uncle Flip.
Sure. Yeah, I'll let him go ahead first.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm Flip from Obsidian Contraption. That's like my music project, but I also create games under the Limitless Contraptions title, just to be confusing to everyone. Yeah, and I'm just here to talk about Ends Reach because I've been helping testing out the game, and so that's why I'm here. That's
Awesome. Yeah. He's a very important guy. I'll say that. Both of you are very important. So yeah, I'm Christian from Curious Entertainment. You may know me through the game that just came out last Friday, Ends Reach. We'll probably get a little bit more into the details of that as we go, but I just wanted to give a quick shout out to the two guys that I'm here with today. They were basically my quality assurance team for the last month. And they put in a lot of work. It was a really strenuous time period for all of us, and it really paid off. So that's kind of why we're all meeting together as a group to talk about what I guess like a post-mortem, what the wrap up of the game was like, and what finishing it was like. So yeah, I'm really excited to talk about it because it was a really intense thing. So
Awesome. As you mentioned, both me and Flip, we basically QA'd your game, and our experience with that. Well, I don't want to speak for Flip, but I'll say that my experiences with this was actually relatively good, and it was interesting seeing the development process reaching towards the final end. So, are there any limitations of what we're allowed to discuss from behind the scenes? Because that'll be the primary course of this interview.
not really. I mean, game development's messy, so it's all out in the air, really.
All right, so we're going to ask some very general, basic questions. We're going to try to treat this like a regular conversation. So if we happen to have any empty spaces in conversation, like maybe a question doesn't come up, feel free to interject at any time, ask questions, or maybe address something that you want the audience to know.
Yeah, sure.
I'm going to try to get a little bit of engagement in here. So I'm actually going to start with Flip here. So Flip, what was your experience like working on in the QA process of Ends Reach?
I really enjoyed it, to be honest. I love the game, so I guess I first kind of got interested in doing that when I kind of joined, what would you call it, the Atari dev pool, Atari VCS dev pool. I don't know. I wanted to reach out to Christian to see if I could try out the game because I thought it looked cool, So both of you guys really, and I just
You've got your hands in.
Not
You're
awake yet.
fine. So you've got your hands in quite a bit of projects. You know, you're working with Metgon Games. You got your own project, and of course, there's Karis Entertainment. So what is it like having yourself kind of Easter egged into all of this stuff?
Oh, geez, it takes up a lot of time, and I have a day job to pay the bills too. So I try to balance all of that, together. But it's been a really great experience. Actually, the Doodle Taxi soundtrack has been great because I've had like friends in the music community on YouTube and stuff like that for a while. So I have like those connections, and everyone's really excited to get on that soundtrack that everyone's involved with. So that's cool. And then of course, yeah, my game Skyfrizz. I'm working on trying to get it on the VCS, but it's not like set in stone. But I think it is. I don't know. I don't know how much I can say. It plays on the VCS. I can say that. Yeah, but it's also been really cool helping out with Ends Reach because I feel like Christian needed the help, and I was there to pitch in.
Yeah. I mean, you guys did great. Like even just some of the ideas that you both came up with for features and stuff, right? Like there's stuff that made it into the game that was ideas from you that I had never thought of, and it's just awesome, right? It kind of wrapped everything together, and I feel like it made the final product more complete because in a way, both of you kind of acted as editors on what the final game was, right? Like things that you didn't like, things that you liked. And I think that really helped. Having a couple more eyes on the wrap up process, I think, was invaluable.
I definitely agree with that. As far as throwing in the ideas and stuff, and kind of having that third eye perspective, so to speak. So I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to at least be able to give a little bit of input in place
Yeah.
history. I remember when I reached out to you, it was kind of like a weird. Obviously, we can't talk about some of like the technical sides outside of the game, but when I reached out to you asking about whether or not you needed a playtester, I was kind of like a little iffy about it because I was also thinking like, what if I cross a line by asking that question? You know what I mean? So the fact that you were eager to and willing to let me test it actually means a lot because I was really excited not just to play this game but also to see it come to full release.
Yeah.
I got a lot of positive like opinions about the game personally. I work in the film industry. I work with a lot of models and cosplayers and voice actors and stuff like that. And I have to say that if you did a sequel for this, I would love to do voice acting if you'll give me a chance. Let's put that on the record. But
I
Yeah.
told him
big deal.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, for sure. Well, this game was kind of light on story, and that
Yes.
was kind of part of its design. In order to keep it so that I could scope the game toward mainly just delivering the amount of content that I wanted to deliver, the story was meant to be fairly minimalist and stuff like that. So, but I think in the future, I was mentioning to Flip the other day, like after we beat the game with the actual final cutscene and kind of more of the plot stuff in there, I was like, man, when I play the game now and I see like the story exposition, it makes me feel like there's more that we can do with that concept.
Wait, for sure.
So I definitely have this. And I think I would like to explore if I did revisit this concept in this game, I think I would like to not make a story heavy game, but at least enrich the way that the story is delivered. So maybe, instead of data logs just being text like they are now, having data logs that are voiced, right? Like the old System Shock games did,
Right.
stuff like that. So, there's ways that you can kind of enrich the whole thing, I think, without changing the formula too much, right? Because I do kind of like the idea of having the story be somewhat optional. I like that. That's kind of inspired from games like Metroid Prime and like Dark Souls and stuff, where like the games they have a deep story, but you don't really have to pay attention if you don't want to. I kind of like that. But I'm absolutely open to the idea of future projects having kind of an enriched presentation, because that is one area that we did kind of scope to be smaller, was the presentation of the plot and the presentation of all this stuff.
Yeah, there was an initial confusion for me at one point about like what was the general like the true narrative during the development. But you also were trying really hard to kind of like keep that from us until the final stage. So it's like it's kind of
I
like
know, and it's kind of one of those things where the payoff was just like I wanted the payoff of the story to have an impact, so I didn't want to reveal it like too early.
right. Now, I'm gonna ask real quick. So we have 20 minutes on this call because I know Flip said you have somewhere you got to be, and I don't want to take up too much time. So we have 20 minutes on this. So rather than getting too much into the sequel side of things, assuming that there would be one in the future, let's talk more about like what it took to make this fit on the VCS, right? Obviously, there was a lot of things that had to be taken out. Some things had to be added just to kind of give the game more structure. Do you want to talk about that? Like maybe one of the bosses or one of the creatures you had to take out, or what it was like when you were
Yeah.
producing the prototype?
Well, one of the main things, like I've actually got some feedback on it, is the file size of the game
Mhm.
being like between 7 and 8 gigs to unpack.
Yeah.
Personally, for me, I mean, that's a really, on any other platform, that would be a pretty small game.
Yes.
But for a VCS game and for a game, I guess an indie game that is quite large, a lot of that is textures and audio. And one of the reasons for that is I have a performance mode that the game defaults to. That's like a 720p targeting 60 FPS mode. But there's also like the fidelity modes and stuff like that. So in order to facilitate those fidelity modes, the textures are not as compressed as they could be if I were to take that out, right? Because the fidelity mode actually amps the texture size a little bit. So
Yeah.
for people who have modified VCSs, like I noticed, I think it was somebody in the Discord where they put a gameplay video, and I assume they have a modified VCS because the game was running so smooth that I was like, wow, that is amazing. I love seeing that. But they probably were on the fidelity mode with higher RAM in their machine,
Right.
which I intended that on purpose because I know a lot of people like the open nature of the machine so that they can modify it and make it run better. So I added the fidelity mode for that, which increases the basic file size.
I feel like that's actually a good example for other high resolution developers. That's something that could be applied to their games in the future as well. I mean, your game was essentially designed with the VCS in mind. You've mentioned this before in interviews, and I've seen the interview that you did with BCB, and of course, we've done an interview before in the past. So you built it with the VCS in mind, and I think that's a prime example for anybody who's wanting to put a game of this quality on this console.
Yeah.
Now, I have to ask, since release, how has reception been? How many units have you sold? Do you feel comfortable disclosing any of that thus far?
I don't have a lot of details on that yet. That's kind of information I'll get like in a couple days or a week or whatever once numbers come in.
Okay.
Reception's been pretty good. I mean, if you've been kicking around the Discord, people have been pretty happy. I've received a lot of messages of people saying they love the game,
Right.
which is like the most relieving thing. I mean, a project this long, when you get toward the finish line, you start to get kind of scared that people aren't going to like it. And like I know you guys had to put up with me like freaking out. Like, is it gonna be good? Is it gonna, what's gonna happen?
I remember me and Cass just telling you stuff like, like it's gonna be all right, it's gonna do great.
If you've ever worked on something, it's creative works are stressful just because you don't know if people are gonna like it, right? And they don't find out until they give you money, which kind of feels, I guess, bad in a way because I never put a demo out or anything, which maybe in the future I will put a demo out for future games. Just because I feel like people should have a chance to try something before they buy it. So I felt a little bad I never gave people that opportunity.
Now be careful.
But I'm really happy to see.
Sorry.
Sorry?
I didn't mean to cut you off. I was gonna say be careful with that because the free demo aspect. I mean, remember Ouya did it before with all of their games, and that went downhill quick. People spent more time playing the demos than the actual game. I mean, it's not a bad idea. But
because I didn't know where I would cut it, right? Because this is a fairly big game.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know where I would stop it, right?
Right.
Like, do I stop it at ship? Where do I stop it? So I just didn't know, and so I figured, we would just try it the way that it released, and it seems to have worked out. So,
by the way,
I've gotten some feedback, but we'll see what happens.
By the way, I apologize for interjecting. I got a little excited about that comment, so that's my bad. But
No worries.
some of the things that had to be taken out. There was a frog character, and then there were some other things. Are we able to talk about some of those? Because I really liked that frog. I liked the color. It really meshed with the environment.
The frog was great.
The frog,
Yeah.
Unanimously for both of you, is it the frog?
Oh
Yeah, I liked the frog. It was a nice subtle surprise, I think.
Yeah. The frog. Yeah, the frog is gone. What can I say? I did have like a goal for file size, and I kind of just looked at what was in the game and just tried to. I looked at things that were large, file size wise, and the fog was pretty big. Some of the other stuff was also pretty big, so we just cut some things to keep it reasonable. I did not want the game to be 9 gigabytes like it was when we started testing.
Oh yeah.
So things did make the cut. And that's kind of one of those things too. Like if we do future content and stuff like that, reducing the file size so that I can fit new content in the game would be definitely a focus for me.
I want to ask real quick. I don't think I ever really asked this question before during QA. You said a lot of the file sizes is texture, music, stuff like that. What kind of music format are you using? Are you using XM? Because I know like that compresses it down to kilobytes, and that saves a ton of storage.
Compressed MP3. So it's MP3 format, which is not the smallest, but it's I compressed it before putting it in the game. So
okay. What if you were to add DLC or something? What would people expect in the future if you wanted to add something to the game on a recent or in a far off update?
what the roadmap is, like without speculation, like what the for sure roadmap of the game is.
Yes.
So I'm on like a few day vacation right now to just get away from my computer.
And here you are
visiting family and stuff. Whatever. And just visiting family, and like so I've been popping in and out of the Discord just to make sure that there's no wildfires and nobody's having like extreme issues. But I've also just been collecting some feedback on things that people would like. So the first thing is like I have a plan to put out a major patch in August, maybe a few weeks in August, and that will be a roundup of everything that I've discovered about the game or feedback that people have given me. Some people have asked for the inverted camera control on the right stick. I've seen like 3 or 4 people ask me that, and I honestly should have known better because I have a friend who plays with inverted camera, but you know he never QA'd the game, so I never got that feedback. But yeah, things like that will easily make it in. Some additional accessibility options, bug fixes, things like that. So that's being planned. I don't want to, because the file size of the game is quite large, I don't want to just keep dumping like daily updates or things like that on people.
Right.
I'd rather address everything updates.
Yeah.
I would say expect that in a few weeks. And if you are having any issues with the game, definitely reach out in the Atari Discord and let me know so that we can get that stuff wrapped up.
And I can
in terms of
I can sorry, there's a slight delay here, so I don't mean to keep cutting you off, but we could also drop your website, your email or whatever you like in the description below, so that way people can have an easier access of getting in contact with you through this video.
Set up some page for people, but at the moment the best place is probably just the VCS Discord. There's an ends reach discussion in there, and people message that. I check it like daily, so I'll see it. But yeah, I mean, so the roadmap is that there will be this first update. Depending on what we can do with the file size, I will be looking to reintroduce some stuff that was removed, like the frog, perhaps. But in terms of future, that's kind of a tentative thing. I have plans for what future content would look like that you guys have kind of heard a little bit about.
Right.
But it's like, I'm sure if it will get in there because it really depends on if we can fit some development time to build what is essentially like new levels and new dungeons and stuff like that. I would love to, but I can't commit to saying that it'll be there.
Right.
I guess it really depends on if people are fiending for more stuff.
Right.
It depends on a lot of.
Here's an idea, and I don't know how like the whole game engine really works, or like what you can add and take away. I don't know if you're beyond that point per se, but in the beginning of the game, I feel comfortable talking about this because it doesn't spoil anything, but in the beginning of the game you teleport into essentially a crater, and behind you is a tree with like the little insects that are illuminated on the tree. You could probably turn that tree into a portal to some extra areas that you decide to add later, so like it just becomes a portal. So if someone's beaten the game and then that section unlocks, and they can go and have an additional segment, like a little in-game, thing. If you
well, I don't know if people have gotten into the game yet. I don't know if anybody's discovered a lot of the portal stuff, but
is
I
it
feel like,
that out?
no, that's fine. No, that's fine. I feel like I do know where additional content will be placed if there is additional content. I did block out an area where I could I could fit new stuff. So I do kind of have a plan for how I will add additional content. I just don't know if it will happen. Right.
Right. Okay, so we are about to hit our 30-minute mark, so we're gonna get hit with the 10-minute timer in about 7 minutes. So I'm gonna shift the conversation just a little bit. I'm gonna call some attention to you, Flip. What was your favorite part of the game thus far?
Oh, geez, that's a tough one.
It could be a location, a character, a mechanic, an item.
Christian wants me talking about. I'll just say some of the puzzles are great. I'm not giving anything away to anyone though. Anyone else?
Fair enough.
Oh, I am.
Go ahead.
All the weapons are cool, and I don't know, gives you a nice variety in the fighting. And I'm glad Christian took my idea to throw grenades in, and that was very cool.
For anybody who's wondering, the grenades were they were 100% Flip's idea. I didn't want to put, and then I prototyped them, and I was like, yeah, this is really cool. So
it's like, oh, you have to have those.
Tried it, and they were kind of a unique idea. And honestly, they're very limited. Grenades don't drop often, and that's by design. I kind of view the grenades as like a gameplay aid in a way. Like the grenades are sort of in the game. Like if you are struggling with combat, you can use the barrier. If there's a bunch of enemies that you are having trouble dealing with, you can use the stunning. So I kind of view them as like a very limited gameplay aid that you can use to get an advantage in combat. And honestly, I feel like they're pretty fun to use. So I'm glad they made it in.
For anybody who saw the fan trailer that I created, the unofficial trailer, my favorite part obviously was the idea of the astronauts, whether they be alien or not. You know, it's just the fact of there's that mystery behind them, and you have that one log that mentions the character's name, Isaac P. Something for some reason that is alluring to me, which is why I included that in the unofficial trailer. Even though it's not the bare bones of the story, I feel like it's because it's one of the first things that the player witnesses in the first 10 minutes of the game. It kind of prompts I'm trying to figure out how to say this. It kind of prompts people to realize that there's more at stake, even though it's not such a big impact in the game per se. I don't want to get too much into the story because I don't want to ruin it for anyone, but I definitely like the fact that when you first start off the game, you see these bodies, you're introduced to your first weapon, and then 5 minutes later you witness. I'll cut this out if I'm not allowed to say it. But the spaceship, and that adds more depth to the environments in the story, because now you realize like you're not alone as much as you think. There's more here for you to look into. Hence the map, and it prompts you to go here and so on and so forth.
It was always meant to be a big part of it. Like the gameplay hook was the crash ship, and that was the case. Even if you look at the announcement trailer from 2020, the crash ship is in that announcement trailer. It was part of the game that long ago, because we were trying to think. We wanted the game to have a minimalist plot, but how do we pull people into the world, right? And that crash ship it's been there since the very first day, I would say, like conceptually. And yeah, I love it too. I love that. Even though the plot kind of goes in a bunch of different directions, I love that there's kind of that draw, that allure of like, what happened here? What are we actually looking after and stuff like that.
Now, we just got hit with the 10-minute mark. I want to try to leave enough time in here for you to give your thoughts on the question about what was your favorite part. And I also want to give enough time here for you to leave any closing remarks, both you and Flip, closing remarks to the viewer. So let's go ahead and start real quick. We've got 9 minutes. What was your favorite part of the game as far as development goes?
For me?
Yeah.
Probably the level design. Because level design is not something that I had done a lot previously in other projects. I'm a system programmer by career. That's what I do. So I write mostly code that is behind the scenes that the player doesn't really see. So building levels and like scripting puzzles and things like that, and trying to make the whole ecosystem of what a puzzle is in this game, and like just simple things like the dynamic camera system, where like when you complete a puzzle and the camera shows you what you did and stuff like that. I love that stuff. And they went through a lot of iterations, right? Like the game, some of these levels and some of these dungeons went through 2 or 3 iterations. And I take a scorched earth approach, where if I build a level and I don't like it, I just hit delete and start over. So a lot of these levels went through some pretty serious iterative design, which was, it's fun when you finish them because you can kind of trust that since you did it so many times that the version you landed on was the one that you learned from, right?
Right. All right. What is something that you want the viewers to take away from today's interview? What is something that they should look forward to, or maybe you want to give them a hint where to find something, anything at all like that that you'd be comfortable giving away?
Sure. No hints, because I love the fact that the community in the Discord has been discussing the game and discussing. I've seen people post screenshots of where they're finding collectibles, and I love that. That's why I built the game.
Mm-hmm.
It's a dream come true to see people trying to pull this world apart and find everything that they can find. I love that. So no hints. I mean, I gave somebody a hint on a boss the other day just because I wanted to throw them a bone. But other than that, I love that people are pulling the game apart themselves. And I guess taking apart from this interview, it's just that this game was a dream project for me. So, it'll be supported for a while until I feel like it's airtight and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
And I'm really happy with what we put out, and I'm really happy that people are happy playing it too. So.
And Flip, any other closing remarks on your end? Anything you want the viewers to take away, whether your product or Ends Reach? I'll of course drop your information in the Discord, the description below as well.
Sure. I don't know. It's just been a really cool experience working with you guys to find all the little kinks in this game and try to get it nice and smoothed out for release. I feel like I've learned a lot in like the QA department. I mean, I've tested my own games, but it's different when you're working on someone else's games.
Yeah.
But for a while I've been one to like reach out to developers if I happen to find a bug. I'll try to find them. Like I have to tell them about this.
Right. I can resonate. Sorry. No, you're good. Go ahead.
As far as my stuff, I got to get on that. But we'll definitely let everyone know when that happens.
And
go by.
And because we still have 5 minutes here, I want to take up as much time as possible. I'm going to go ahead and just say that the experience for my side of things was honestly great. Having the opportunity to be able to witness this game before its release and be able to play test through. I mean, I must have beat it like 28 times since playtesting it over the 2 months roughly. Has it been 2 months? 2 months? Month and a half? A little bit longer?
I think I agreed to a release date with Atari in June at some point.
Yeah.
Well, I think we had at least a month and a half of, the real.
It's definitely been a while, but my experience with it has honestly been good. Like it kind of gives me more of an insight into beta testing and so on and so forth. I mean, I'm also beta testing several other games I'm not allowed to mention right now. I've really gotten into that. Excuse me. I'll be looking into a paid gig at some point soon here and come next month. I'm kind of excited about that, but it's neither here nor there. As far as Ends Reach, the story, the world building, like the character, the colors, and I'm a very visual person. For me, like the game, if a game is colorful enough, it like sparks something in the back of my mind. Maybe that's like ADHD, or I don't know, maybe I'm autistic. I don't know. But the point is, colors really lure me in. I've made a mention before that your game reminds me a lot of a game from Xbox called Azaric, where you basically play this one character in these 4 elemental worlds, and you're collecting discs, to beat the game. The game Ends Reach is nowhere near comparative to that now versus my original thoughts. It's obviously its own separate entity, but it really feels like you're taking a lot of homage from the early Xbox era, which is why with the fan trailer I tried to go for early Xbox. So I appreciate your acknowledgement on that. But
definitely was something we were going for sure. Like there was an era of game that I was trying to capture.
Yeah.
And that's why I was nervous about release, because I didn't know if people would appreciate the kind of like cryptic elements where I want the player to solve things for themselves and kind of go back to like an era of game design that was kind of trusts that the player will solve the game and cares enough to solve the game. And that's something as a designer that you kind of struggle with, is like, you can't always assume that the player is going to actually care enough
right.
to not just put down when faced with a problem.
Right. Rage.
But it feels good to know that people care enough to solve these puzzles and fight these bosses and stuff. It feels really great.
So we unfortunately only have 2 more minutes, and then it's going to cut us off. So I'm going to let everybody kind of say their names, their handles, and then we're going to sign off for the rest of the interview. And for those watching, thank you so much for joining. I have been Kaz Denizon with Crash Productions. You already know where to find me. So I'll pass this over to Flip, let you start, and then Christian, you'll go last.
All right. Yeah, I'm Flip from Obsidian Contraption. You can find that YouTube channel, Obsidian Contraption. Just look that up, and there I am. All of my gaming and music content is on there. So, and I always have all my links in there. It's probably the best place to just kind of find all my stuff. But yeah, that's about it.
And Christian?
He's a humble guy. Yeah, I feel like now that everything's kind of said and done, and we're kind of in that like post-launch phase, it feels kind of cool, I guess, that Atari, whether they meant to or not, have kind of built this indie community around their hardware, right? Because like I know several people have tried, but it's kind of exciting that there are people who make games for the VCS, and then there are people who play them, right? Like how many indie games come out with no audience, and and stuff like. It's pretty amazing that regardless of what happens to Atari going forward, they did create a community of people who want to build games and people who want to play games. And it's really nice to know that you have a chance to experiment, right?
Right.
The game was very experimental. I didn't know if anybody would like this, so it's amazing to have an audience of people that were excited for it. I never in my life thought I'd experience people excited for my game. I just never thought it would happen.
All right, we have 30 seconds left. So where can people find you? Where can people buy your game?
So obviously the Atari VCS store is it's an exclusive game, so that's the only place that you can currently buy it. It's priced at 15 USD. You can also go to ensreach.com for information about the game, and cuirass.net, CUIRASS.net. That's the official website of my company, so that's where you'll find future games. And yeah, if you look up those things on YouTube, you'll find my YouTube channel as well. So.
All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. We have 15 seconds. It's going to cut us out. If you guys want to see us come back for part 2, drop a comment below, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you for your time, guys.
Take care. It's a pleasure.